Beneath the endless blue expanse of the South China Sea, a silent drama unfolds, a saga of ambition, power, and survival. This is no ordinary stretch of water. It is the beating heart of global trade, a crossroads where the destinies of nations collide. Every sunrise, a vast armada of ships, giants of steel and commerce, carve their paths through these restless waves, bearing the lifeblood of the modern world: electronics, oil, food, and raw materials. Over $3 trillion in goods surge through these arteries each year, making the South China Sea one of Earth's most vital and fiercely contested corridors. Here, a single disruption can send shockwaves across continents, shaking the foundations of global commerce. But beneath the surface, another treasure glimmers: vast reserves of oil and natural gas, and fisheries teeming with life. These riches are the fuel and food for millions, coveted by all who border these waters. For coastal communities, the sea is more than a boundary. It is a lifeline, a source of hope and sustenance, the pulse of daily existence. Yet where there is great wealth, there is great peril. The South China Sea has become a crucible of tension, where warships prowl and rival powers test their resolve. The stakes are nothing less than the balance of power in Asia, and perhaps the world. 5 nations, China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, lay claim to these waters, their ambitions overlapping like storm clouds on the horizon. Each invokes history, geography, and law, but none are willing to yield. At the center of this storm stands China's sweeping 9-dash line, a claim so vast it swallows nearly the entire sea. Rejected by neighbors and international courts, it remains a line drawn in defiance, a symbol of China's unyielding will. In 2025, the tension reached a fever pitch. Chinese and Philippine warships faced off in a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, each maneuver a heartbeat away from catastrophe. The world watched as these confrontations edged ever closer to open conflict, the specter of war looming over the waves, threatening to engulf the region and beyond. These are not mere border disputes. They are battles over the very rules that govern our world. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the authority of international courts, the hope for peace in a turbulent era. The outcome will ripple far beyond these shores, threatening the stability of the Indo-Pacific, the security of global trade, and the prosperity of nations everywhere. In this series, we embark on an epic journey through the pivotal events of 2025, moments that brought the world to the edge, and decisions that will echo for generations. We'll witness the bold incursion of Chinese warships into Philippine waters, unravel the sparks that ignited this crisis, and reveal the defiant response of the Philippines and its allies. We'll uncover what's truly at stake, from the fate of vital shipping lanes to the tremors felt in global markets and the halls of diplomacy. To understand this conflict is to grasp the epic struggle shaping our world, a struggle that will decide not just the future of these troubled waters, but the destiny of us all. In the early months of 2025, a significant and concerning development unfolded in the South China Sea. Chinese Navy warships, including formidable destroyers and frigates, not merely Coast Guard vessels, made a bold and unexpected move by entering deep into Philippine territorial waters. This was not a routine patrol or a simple show of presence. It was a calculated maneuver that caught the attention of the world. Their presence near major Philippine islands was unprecedented, signaling a bold escalation. The proximity of these warships to the heart of the Philippines was a clear indication of China's growing assertiveness in the region. These warships lingered in areas far from the disputed reefs, conducting extensive drills and military patrols. This was not an innocent passage or a mere show of force. It was a demonstration of military might and strategic intent. Manila swiftly condemned the move as a blatant violation of its sovereignty, while the world watched anxiously. The international media covered the escalating tensions extensively, highlighting the potential for conflict in the region. This was a clear message from China. It was ready to enforce its territorial claims with military power, not just rhetoric. The aggressive maneuvers of the Chinese warships left no doubt about their intentions. The deployment blurred the line between law enforcement and military confrontation, raising the risk of miscalculation. The tense standoff between the Philippine and Chinese Navy vessels underscored the fragile nature of peace in the region. For the Philippines and its neighbors, it was a direct threat. For the international community, a challenge to the rules-based order. ASEAN leaders and the UN Security Council convened urgent meetings to address the growing crisis. This single act set the stage for even more dangerous confrontations in the weeks that followed. The dramatic escalation in naval activities painted a picture of a region on the brink of conflict, with the potential for far-reaching consequences. Tensions quickly turned physical near Scarborough Shoal, where a Chinese Coast Guard ship rammed a Philippine patrol vessel, damaging its hull. China blamed the Philippines, but video evidence showed a deliberate, dangerous maneuver by the Chinese ship. Soon after, at Second Thomas Shoal, Chinese ships used water cannons to drive back a Philippine supply boat, injuring crew and shattering windows. These gray zone tactics, aggressive but just short of war, let China block Philippine access without firing a shot. The Philippines protested, but China dismissed the complaints, insisting it was defending its territory. Each incident escalated the crisis, making the risk of a wider conflict ever more real. The pattern was clear. China was using force to assert control, daring the Philippines to respond. At the heart of the dispute is the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ, a 200 nautical mile area off a country's coast where it controls resources. For the Philippines, the EEZ is crucial for food, jobs, and potential energy independence. China's 9-line claim overlaps almost entirely with the Philippines' EEZ, despite a 2016 international tribunal ruling in Manila's favor. China ignores this ruling, continuing to block Filipino fishermen and supply missions within the Philippines' legal EEZ. These actions violate international law and prevent the Philippines from accessing its own resources. The fundamental conflict: international law versus China's expansive historical claims. This legal standoff is the root of the entire South China Sea crisis. In the face of mounting aggression from China, the Philippines has responded with a dual strategy, strengthening both its diplomatic efforts and its defense capabilities. This approach is not just about reacting to immediate threats, but about building a long-term framework to safeguard national interests and regional stability. Manila now exposes every maritime incident, promptly releasing photos and videos to the public and international media. By doing so, the government aims to rally global support, counter China's narrative, and ensure that the world remains aware of the ongoing tensions in the South China Sea. President Marcos Jr. has elevated the issue to the highest diplomatic platforms, bringing it before the United Nations, ASEAN summits, and other international forums. He consistently calls for a rules-based order, urging the global community to uphold international law and support the Philippines' sovereign rights. On the ground and at sea, the Philippines has ramped up patrols and invested heavily in modernizing its military. The focus is on asymmetric strategies, using advanced surveillance, fast attack craft, and coastal defense systems to maintain a strong and persistent presence in its own waters, despite being outmatched in size. Crucially, Manila has deepened its alliances with key partners like the United States, Japan, Australia, and others. Through joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, and coordinated patrols, the Philippines is building a network of support that enhances its deterrence posture. The ultimate goal is not to provoke conflict, but to deter aggression, demonstrating to China and the world that the Philippines will not stand alone, and that any attempt at coercion will be met with a united front. By combining transparency, proactive diplomacy, and robust defense measures, Manila is pushing back against Beijing's coercion, making it clear that its sovereignty and maritime rights are non-negotiable. The stakes could not be higher: sovereignty, national security, and the rule of law in Asia's most contested sea. The outcome will shape not only the future of the Philippines, but the balance of power and peace in the entire region. China's gray zone strategy uses intimidation and coercion just below the threshold of war. Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels swarm disputed areas, block access, and use water cannons, actions designed to wear down the Philippines without triggering a military response. If Manila fights back, it risks escalation. If it does nothing, it loses control. China's maritime militia, hundreds of fishing boats directed by the military, further complicate any response. Propaganda and disinformation muddy the waters, with China portraying itself as the victim. The goal: undermine Philippine resolve and international support, making Beijing's control seem inevitable. It's a slow, relentless campaign to change facts on the water. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty now explicitly covers attacks in the South China Sea. In 2025, the U.S. backed up its words with more naval patrols, expanded joint exercises, and clear warnings to China. Allies like Japan, Australia, and the UK joined in, conducting joint patrols and condemning China's coercion. This multilateral support signals to Beijing that the world is watching, and that aggression carries real risks. The U.S. aims to deter China, reassure the Philippines, and uphold freedom of navigation. The dispute is no longer just bilateral. It's a test of global principles and alliances. The stakes, whether international law or raw power, will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific. The world's response could determine the region's fate for decades. The South China Sea is a global choke point. One-third of world shipping and much of Asia's energy pass through these waters. Any conflict here would disrupt supply chains, spike shipping costs, and trigger shortages worldwide. But it's not just about trade. The crisis tests whether powerful nations can ignore international law and impose their will on smaller neighbors. If China succeeds, it sets a precedent for might over right, threatening global stability. That's why countries far beyond Asia support the Philippines and freedom of navigation. The principles at stake, sovereignty, peaceful dispute resolution, and the rule of law, are the foundation of global peace. The world is watching because the outcome will shape the international order for years to come. In 2025, the South China Sea reached a dangerous tipping point. China's escalation, warships, collisions, water cannons, directly challenged Philippine sovereignty and international law. The Philippines responded with transparency, diplomacy, and stronger alliances, rallying global support. The risk of miscalculation is high. A single deadly incident could spark a wider conflict and cripple global trade. The peace is fragile, with both sides refusing to back down. The world hopes for dialogue and a binding code of conduct. But for now, the region remains a flashpoint. The choices made in Beijing, Manila, and Washington will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific. The rules of the 21st century are being written here, day by dangerous day.